special year-end W-2 items in Sage 300. So first we're going to pull up a couple screens, pull up the pays, the pay IDs, set up a new pay, set up some new deductions. Then we're going to need to review the W-2 form. Now this W-2 form modification drives how Atrix processes the W-2s when you run the federal e-file and reporting Atrix W-2 wizard. Okay, so it drives off of this. So we need to make sure this W-2 area is correct once we're done with our special items we're going to set up and process. So let's say, let's look for the personal use. Let's use that as an example. So no personal use of company vehicle is set up in here yet. So let's set that up. Okay. Now this is going to be an other pay type. And you're going to want to check the in-out box. So this grosses up the wages, the federal wages, in this setup that I'm doing right here. Okay, so we're going to hit save to that. It's going to ask us tell us that we need to set up a deduction record for that pay, because it's going to gross up wages as an addition, and then it's going to deduct out as a deduct to net to zero. Personal use. Let's pick a withholding here. Okay, hit save. Okay, and now we should be able to see in the deduction screen that related deduction. Okay. All right. So now how that works on the W-2. So we work with the default one in this example. You can set up multiple types of forms so that you have different setups going on with box 12 and 14, for example, but we just have one in here we're playing with. So how these tie is the federal withholding on the pay, the exemption box here would mean that this pay, if this was checked, would not show up in the federal taxable box 1 wages. Same thing for FICA and state withholding. So Medicare and Social Security wages would not show up if this was taxed, exempt taxed, this exempt tax box was checked. It would not show up over here. So you want to make sure you have your pays in your system and your boxes with the exemptions set up correctly on your FICA federal and state withholding. Okay, so let's look at one more screen here. So this is a common error or mistake that people make, thinking that this is allowed or the system would do this. So we go to the pays here, and if you have a certain override turned on in the system, you can adjust year-to-date wages and pretty much anything that's in white here. If you change this year-to-date pay, just type over it manually, if you have that override on, it will not change it on the W-2. So it needs to be processed through the payroll process, processing checks. So do not go into the pays and deductions or any of these and change the override boxes if you forgot to include personal use or shareholder insurance or something to that effect. Okay, so just a little tidbit there. Okay, so now that we have this set up, let's process a check on someone and show you how that works. It's a little quirky in 300. So I'll show you what we need to do here. All right, so let's say that I want to put $1,200 of personal use on Terry Brock. Okay, so I've added the pay, personal use, typed in the amount, and I want to process this. You're gonna see what happens. The taxes and such will come through. Okay, so you're gonna hit OK, and it's gonna give us a negative net pay. Okay, so we're gonna come in here and we're going to wipe out the taxes. So because I want this to be taxable and gross up the pay, I don't check these boxes, but it's going to withhold when I do that. Okay, so you need to process it, wipe out the taxes, and come in here and create the check, or come in here and reprocess, and we're going to make this a manual check. Okay, so we're going to hit accept check here. Let's go back and look at it in the check info. You can see the employer taxes are showing up. Okay, so let's go here and let's get to the employer taxes. Okay, so there's the employer tax button. I'm gonna wipe those out if so desired. Now consult with your CPA or your tax professional on how to appropriately do the taxability of this, but I'm showing you the functionality in the system of how to do it. Okay, so now we're going to accept the check again, and check info shows now that it has no taxes and there's no pay. So it's grossing up and it's taking out. Okay. So now I don't want to print anything. I just want to do a manual check. Just give it a number. And then that's how you process a special item with the system to get it to appropriately show up on the W-2. Okay, so I'm going to accept and finish out here. Okay. Okay, now that specific example, those wages will show up in 1, 3, and 5 since I don't have the boxes checked, and the withholding and any taxes would not have been affected because I took them out when I processed the paycheck. Okay, again, depending on what your CPA tells you or your tax accountants, you'll want to treat these boxes according to how they would like that. Okay, now let's say you want to put the informational personal use of the vehicle here. So it shows up as an optional informational type of thing to the employee. It's not required, but you could always in box 14, this is usually optional info. So you could put in here the amount that you use on the personal use pay setup, and it will show up on their W-2. Okay, so that's how this area works. You can, click here, put the text in, and then pick the different options to go along with it. So I just picked the pays button there as an informational item in box 14. Okay, now in box, just a tidbit here, in box 12, you can just start typing the codes. So it's kind of a small area, but you've got a couple letters you can put in there or one. okay? And then you just pick your deduct, for example, okay? So if you want to report dues, you have to use, again, I did that twice, use the text box there in box 14, and then you would go and find your dues deduct if you want to report on that and give them information. Okay, again, these boxes are driven by these, and your withholdings, come from when you process paychecks. And then these box 14 and box 12 you need to fill in. Okay, again, consult the IRS W-2 instructions or your CPA on how to appropriately fill all that out and treat these boxes as well. Okay, so if there are any questions on how this further could work in the system, reach out to us at help@bangerinc.com and we will get back to you, or post a comment on this live stream and we will respond. Thank you for your time.